Blue and green should never be seen. At least that's what I was told when I was young. It's a silly saying, isn't it? Because blue and green actually look quite good together. Hi, my name's Carol. Welcome to my channel where I show you how easy jewellery making can be. Today I'm going to be making this blue and green bracelet. And I'm going to walk you through the process step by step and show you exactly what you need to make it. In front of me, I've got everything you need to make this double strand bracelet. I'll start with the beads. I've got 3 of these 10mm acrylic imitation gemstones in this beautiful milky green colour. I have 4 of each of the blue and the green of these 14x6 resin beads, and I just love how these have a 3D thing going on. I also have 10 of these 8mm glass bicones. I've got a toggle clasp here, and I chose this toggle clasp because it goes quite well with the 3mm beads. In my tray, I have 3 6mm jump rings. I have 2 8mm flower bead caps. I've got 2 4mm jump rings. I have 4 crimp beads. I've got 33 of these 3mm corrugated silver beads, and I've got 4 crimp covers. I've also got a piece of tiger tail which is about 50 centimeters long, and I like to give myself quite a lot of extra when I'm working with tiger tail. Just it makes it easier to work with. I also need 2 pairs of chain nose pliers and a pair of flush cutters. Alright, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is take my tiger tail, and I'm going to put a jump ring on one end with a crimp bead. So I'll just move that out of the way and grab one of my little crimp beads. Now remember that when you use a crimp bead, it's best if you put it down on your mat and go fishing for it with the end of your tiger tail. If you kind of stand it up, just show you that again. You stand it up and then kind of put your tiger tail down into it, and then it kind of pushes over, and there you go. Now I'm going to take one of my 6mm jump rings and thread that on. I need to make sure that it's well closed, which it's not, so I'm going to do that first. Just leave my tiger tail there for a minute. Grab my 2 pairs of chain nose pliers, one on either side, and just close my jump ring properly. So last thing I need is my tiger tail falling out of that jump ring. So there you go, that's what I have, a nice closed jump ring, and I'm going to thread that on next. Now I'm going to go back down through the I'm going to go back down through the crimp bead, and what that has done is it's trapped that jump ring in the loop there. I'm taking my pliers now, and I'm going to just give that crimp bead a bit of a squeeze, nice and firm, so that it's nice and flat. So that's what I have now. And I can start threading on my beads. Now if we have a look at the bracelet that I made, I've actually got uneven numbers of these 3mm beads. I've got 4 on one side and 3 on the other. So I'm going to string this one first, and it has 3 of the beads, so I'm going to put those on first. So just taking 3 of my little 3mm beads and popping those on. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to do something else. I'm actually going to put my crimp cover on, because I can do it here and it's nice and easy. So if you haven't used a crimp cover before, they can be slippery little suckers. But what it is this is what it looks like, and you can see it kind of looks like a Pac-Man. And what you do is you put it over your crimp bead, and then you close it up so that it looks like a bead, and it looks actually very similar to the 3mm beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it on here, and I want it to cover the crimp bead. So that's what I have now, and I'm going to take my pliers and give it a squeeze, making sure that the crimp bead is tucked inside. Oops, And I always kind of give it a squeeze all the way around just to make sure it's nice, and it basically just needs to look like another bead. So you can see now it just looks like a bead on the end there. So that's handy. All right, now we're going to put on 3 of these beautiful little corrugated beads. And you'll notice I left a tail. Well, I'm actually going to trim that tail off a little bit because it's too long. And I'm going to trim it off to about 1 centimetre. And I'm just going to run my beads, all 3 of them, up over that tail. And that will hide it inside those beads there. So that's what I have now. Okay, next I'm going to put on one of my green beads. And I'm just going to bring these, bring these little beads out because it makes it easier to get to them. And I flicked my little jump rings over there when I did that. Okay. So basically what this pattern is everything has a little corrugated bead between them, all the beads. So popping on another corrugated one and a blue bicone. Another corrugated one. And what I'll do is I will leave a link in the description box below to the corresponding blog post, and that will have a layout diagram of how I'm laying out the beads if you'd like to see that. Sometimes I find that makes it easier for me. Now I'm popping on a blue one and my corrugated one again and another bicone. So that's what I have now. And next I'm going to put on one more corrugated bead, and I'm going to put on my bead cap. So remember, when you put on a bead cap, you put it on facing the bead that it's going to cup. So that bead cap is actually going that way because it's going to cup one of these 3mm, it's 10mm beads. So I'm popping those 3 on. Like that. Now I'm putting the one on the other end and it's facing the other way. So there's the focal part of my bracelet. Alright, now I'm just going to repeat this bit and I'll come back when that's done. Now I have all of my beads threaded on for this strand, and notice that I reversed the pattern. So I have the 2 blue ones on the inside closest to the focal beads and the 2 green ones on the outside, and I've got my 3 little corrugated ones there. So next I'm going to put on my jump ring on the other end just like I did before. So grabbing my crimp bead, putting it down and going fishing for it, and a jump ring. The only difference this time is that I'm actually going to thread my tiger tail back down through a couple of the beads before I crimp it. So just threading it through the crimp bead, and I'm just going to run some of those beads up and feed the tiger tail through them. They've got quite small holes, these ones, so it's a little bit challenging to get the tiger tail through twice, but that's all good. Okay, now I'm going to pull it up so it's nice and tight. So my beads are all, there's no gaps between my beads. These little ones are running away. As I said, they're quite tight, so it's just being a little bit tricky. Okay, so that's what I have now. And what I need to do is make sure I've got enough room for this to move, so you don't want it too tight so that it doesn't move around. Okay, I'm going to take my pliers and give that crimp bead a squeeze, and I'm going to trim off that excess tiger tail. Now the way I'm doing this is I'm taking my flush cutters and I'm getting them right into the points right into the corner there and cutting it off. And that end will just, you can just wiggle it around and it will go inside the bead. So that's what I have. Whoops. There you go. Now I'm going to do the second strand. Now the second strand, the focal part is 4 of these pretty little bicones. There. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to thread on my crimp bead, and just like before, and this time I'm going to take this one and I'm going to thread my, just basically a repeat of what I did before. Now I've just realized I forgot to put my crimp cover on this end, so I will go ahead and do that just like I did before. Now my crimp covers are on both ends, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread on the beads. Now this one has 4 beads at the beginning, not 3. This strand here has 3 and the next one has 4. So that's different between the two. So I'm going to pop those on. And remember to tuck your end into these beads. Now if you don't remember, it's not a big deal, you can cut it off. So there I have my 4 beads with the tail tucked in. And now the pattern here goes like this. So I've got a green one, sorry, a blue one on each end, a green one in the middle, and the bicones. And that's all punctuated by the little beads. Now one thing to remember is that I have 2 of these on either side of the bicones and 1 everywhere else. So I'll thread that up. So now I have both of my strands on, all threaded, and I put on a crimp bead on the other end and attached it to my jump ring just like I did before in my crimp covers. So this is the layout of the beads, and as I said, with every video I do, I also do a blog post and I generally leave a layout diagram of the beads. So if you would like to see that, I'll leave the link in the description box below. Alright, now all that's left to do is put on the clasp, and I'm going to do that with my 4mm jump rings, but you'll notice that I also still have a 6mm jump ring here. Now the reason I've got an extra 6 is because when you use a toggle clasp, it's a really good idea to use an extra jump ring on the bar end, because when you do up a toggle clasp, especially on a bracelet, they tend not to sit right unless you have that extra jump ring. So if I had put that there, it would actually kind of get stuck in underneath the clasp. So that's why I've got an extra one. So I'm going to put that on first. And the reason I'm using 4mm jump rings instead of 6 to add the clasp is I just think it looks a little better. So here we go, here's my 6mm jump ring. Okay, so there's my jump ring, my second jump ring on there. And now I'm going to put my 4mm on with my toggle clasp. So I'm opening my jump rings. By the way, if you have never used jump rings before, I have a video on how to open and close them correctly, so I will leave a link in the description box below and also a card up the top here. And I'm going to pop on my bracelet, my 6mm jump ring, and one of my pieces of my toggle clasp. And then just close it up. Making sure it's well closed. Mine isn't quite closed. There we go. And the same thing on the other end. Just open your jump ring. And pop on the clasp. Whoops. and also the jump ring. Obviously you want to make sure that you're not between the two pieces there. Okay, so there's my double strand bracelet. So there it is, one blue and green double strand bracelet, and yes, blue and green should definitely be seen together. If you enjoyed making this bracelet with me and you'd like to see more, remember to subscribe to my channel and like this video, and also ring the bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new project, which is once a week. Also check out our Facebook page and our Instagram, and I'll leave links to those in the description box below, and also to our website where you can find a layout diagram for this bracelet. If you would like to make the necklace that I'm wearing, I will leave a link in the description box for the tutorial for this as well. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.